Mary Kay Cabot just tweeted out within the last minute, and I quote, Anthony, you can throw it up when you're ready. Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson is not scheduled to speak with the media again today. Didn't do so yesterday either for his regular weekly appearance. He sat out Wednesday's practice. We'll see about today. We'll find out practice later this afternoon. Deshaun, however, not speaking to the media, which leads us right to our main topic of the show, Jay. There has been some mixed messaging from the Browns Brain Trust over the Deshaun Watson shoulder injury from when it started 2 weeks ago to where we are now. In your opinion, 2 weeks out from the initial report of Deshaun being hurt, we didn't know about it until Wednesday after the Tennessee game. Do you think this could be the sign of a bigger picture issue with the Browns Brain Trust? Maybe a little fracture showing through the signs?
Yes. Not, but it's bad either way. Whether this is a fracture amongst the group or not, it's still bad. They have all the messaging that has come out over the last weekend and almost 2 weeks of this has often conflicted other messaging. Nobody seems to be on the same page, whether it's Watson, Stefanski. They keep saying they're on the same page, like every time we hear from Stefanski and Berry, but clearly there's a disconnect somewhere. And whether this means that Berry and Stefanski, who have seemed to be very tight, maybe things are fraying between them. Maybe Jimmy Haslam's causing a fray between them. Maybe Deshaun Watson's ticked at Stefanski right now. We don't know. But clearly, there is a problem. Can it be overcome and the Browns get back to winning? Sure. But when you come from an organization that is used to losing, it's harder to get over these things. They tend to sabotage a team more than organizations. You know, when you had the Antonio Brown situation in Pittsburgh, well, they're used to a culture of winning. So they got rid of him, they moved on, and it wasn't a big deal. Now, nothing here that's happened is equivalent to that necessarily, but I think the big question right now that we don't have an answer to is two things. Is there any tension between Watson and Stefanski? Mm-hmm. And is there any tension between Watson and his teammates? Because if either of those things are happening, then that's a problem, guys.
Well, that ultimately led to Baker's demise. And I'm not saying there was tension between Baker and Stefanski, but there was clearly tension between Baker and some of his teammates.
I just don't like it. I don't understand don't they have a support staff? Don't they? You know, I was laughing and I was thinking to myself, they need to hire Olivia Pope from the movie or from the show Scandal. You need to bring her in here, Kerry Washington,
communications expert,
figure this out. Because look, the one thing that you don't want, right? And you look at Deshaun Watson, and there's one thing Deshaun Watson has never been. He has never been or has had an opportunity to be comfortable in Cleveland. He doesn't have anybody he really speaks to in the media locally. He really hasn't really even spoken about who he is or what he's able to do or any of the work he's done in the community, because we've only spoken about the scandal. So he's already closed in a little bit. And so when you close in a little bit, you want at least your teammates in your organization to kind of, surround you and close ranks a little bit. So, you mentioned Hanford Dixon and what he said. I believe Hanford Dixon is just a consequence of the mixed messaging.
I agree with
100%.
that. 100% agree with that.
When you take in, when your coach says, well, he's cleared to play, well, okay, we'll take that on his face value. Okay, that's one. But then the general manager comes out in the bye week, and he's supposed to be shutting it down, and then he comes out and says that he's going to play, and you guarantee it almost, like double down.
Well, he just said it matter-of-factly.
Like it's just nothing.
He'll play against San Francisco.
So when you say it out of turn and out of matter of fact, you diminish what is exactly happening with that player. So people think, oh, it's not that big of a deal. Now we got people on the internet being like, okay, yeah, bruise, contusion. Now it's the narrative is, oh, well, regular people have this. Why isn't he playing?
Yeah, that's insane.
And so now if you're Deshaun Watson, you back on the defensive. You're like, I'm trying to win people over, and I had all these allegations, and I wasn't allowed to speak. Now I'm here, I'm trying to get that past me, and now, which I think is weird a little bit too, he's not speaking anymore. Like,
yeah.
it's okay to be injured and go talk to the media. At least You'll say, hey, look, guys, I'm trying my hardest to get out there. I'm just doing day by. But they're almost being like, no, don't do that because
I know.
There's two reasons for him not to speak. One, he's saying, I'm not doing it because the reporters have twisted my words.
Yep.
Or the other is the organization is telling him, don't speak.
Right.
And either way, it's bad because his message now is in a can, and we don't know what it is.
We don't know. He's just walking around.
And I thought of something yesterday that I haven't discussed on the show yet, but when I was having this conversation with a big fan yesterday, this popped into my head, and I made the point. And I'll make it with you guys and see what you think. I'm not suggesting that Stefanski is vindictive, but he didn't lob the first blow here. We haven't tied into all of this Deshaun's comments after the Steelers game that there was a communication problem. And I'm wondering if to show Deshaun how damaging it can be to let what's inside the locker room out into the public, which is what Deshaun did, and it caused, now Stefanski's answering questions about the communication with his quarterback. He doesn't want to spend time doing that. I'm wondering if Stefanski, because we've said over and over again, every word that has ever fallen out of his mouth has been pre-thought and it's measured. And there's always intent. He doesn't make mistakes. We've followed him for, now into his fourth season. He just doesn't do that. So I think the biggest surprise for all of us was, wow, he just said that. And then we start thinking, okay, why? Well, that did come after Deshaun's comment about there's communication issues between quarterback and coach. Want to see how damaging that can be? And I still can't think that he would be that small and petty. He's the head coach.
Because
I can't think it was intentional, but maybe subconsciously.
If I were the owner of the team and I knew Stefanski did what you're suggesting,
no, I'm not suggesting.
I'm not saying you're saying he
what
did
I'm
it.
saying is that possible?
Okay.
That subconsciously he said, "This guy didn't have my back."
I'd fire him if he did. If I were.
Well, you'd never know. You'd never
if
be
I
able
knew,
to
I'm
prove
saying
that. But to
that'd
me,
be crazy.
It's just what I can't understand is why coach and general manager have made comments about this quarterback that has led the fan base and media to believe he could have played and he's going to play.
And what's to G's point also of he's been trying to build up this relationship in theory. Since the moment Watson got here, it's been bad, right? He got suspended, all the accusations.
The news around
all the news has been bad.
Yeah.
And then when he got on the field, it was all bad.
Right.
Until the Titans game.
Yes.
Right.
So, and then we saw them high-fiving and chest bumping and everything else.
We were all feeling great.
Yes.
It was the best you felt collectively
no question.
about Watson was after that game.
No question.
And now it's just all gone to crap since then. Without another game being played.
I mean, the optics are, it's not good.
Right.
But I've had players tell me before about what were perceived scandals outside a locker room. We're not even close to that inside the locker room. So
fair.
Here's my hope. You had said something earlier about close the ranks and come together. Here's my hope. My hope is the 53 and the coaches come together and bubble wrap themselves from us.
Well, we need a clear message today, Jay.
We do, but Bull, here's how you send a clear message.
Yeah.
Go beat the hell out of San Francisco.
True, but
message sent.
Fine, but if I were the Browns today, I'm like my head's spinning because Watson.
Why? How did this happen?
Because Watson, Stefanski, Berry, and DTR. Off the top of my head, I can't think if there's any other players.
Throw in DPJ, too, who said yesterday, I don't know who's throwing the ball to us.
Oh, he said that?
I believe he said that.
DPJ said, quote, I'm not sure who will be catching passes from us today.
So that's 5 people, coach, GM, 3 players, who have said something that makes you to believe not everybody's on the same page. And that can't happen.
And at some point, perception becomes reality,
That's right.
doesn't it?
And add in that Watson's not talking. What do they got to hide? When somebody doesn't talk, you think there's always something to hide. So we need one message. Kevin Stefanski and Andrew Berry need to be in the room with the entire team and say, what the hell are we doing here? Here's what's going on. Here's what we're saying in the media. That's it.
That may have already happened, and they're not going to tell us.
Guys, this is as I go back and look at it, I remember he's always had trouble with messaging on players' injuries.
Baker?
The Baker situation. Remember when people thought Odell Beckham was going to play in the first game against Kansas City?
I do.
And
Yes.
he just came out and was like, and
That's true.
And so if you look at it,
They're always
it's
shady with the
always a
injuries.
little, like for the last 3 or 4 years, like take a look at what goes on. You had problems with OBJ. You had problems with Jarvis Landry. When Jarvis Landry is he's at his turkey giveaway, and he comes out and says, you know what, I just don't know what's going on right now. You take a look, Jadeveon Clowney. He says he's not going in on third down. These are things that I can't look at. If you look at them individually, okay, they're just one-offs. But if you look at it, there's a pattern of behavior where there's messaging where I don't know how that was even allowed to go on.
Is it possible for us to, and we're assuming that there's a communication issue and a messaging issue, who's to blame for that? And I know in reality it's probably a little bit of everybody. Should Deshaun Watson ever tell the media that there's a communication problem with his head coach?
I'd love to hear those exact quotes again because in
You
my
wanna dig them
memory
up?
it was
After
really.
the
I'll
Pittsburgh
look him up.
game.
Hold on.
It was really. I didn't realize I don't remember him
The
saying.
one that stands out to me was whether or not we're going to go for it on fourth down.
Yeah.
That was a specific example that he used, but he
Yeah.
also used, I think, game plans, or he gave several examples, which was why I was like, wow, it's not like this is one communication problem. We got muddy channels on a couple of different things.
Right.
And first of all,
Yeah.
here's the way you fix that. You go to the quarterback, or you go to the head coach, if you're the quarterback, and you say, Coach, I'm not really sure what our philosophy is on going for it on fourth down, and I'm not sure, but I would love to know if we got the ball on the 44-yard line, because that's the yellow zone for sure. Mm-hmm. If we've got the ball on the 44-yard line, is that always a red light or a green light to go for it 4 times? Because I'd like to know that on first down, and I'd like to know that on second down, and I'd also really like to know that on third.
Yeah, but
down.
you can't know that for sure
No,
every
but
time.
you can have conversations and say, well, here's what our analytics department gave. Here's the book that we go by. 41-yard line and in. We're going for it on fourth and under 3. Whatever it is. They have a formula. I don't know what it is. But he should know what that is. So he, in his mind, can say on third down, I'm not going to throw a check down to a guy that's still a yard short of the sticks. If that means we're not going to go for it on fourth down, I may look for a different receiver. I may decide to run. It's just additional information that
I
helps
just
him
find
make
it hard to
decisions.
believe that this information is not being shared.
I do too, but Mike, I don't think I'm misremembering this.
Yeah,
quote.
I just don't remember him saying anything about the coach. I certainly could be wrong, but I
Quote,
thought.
I have it right here.
Okay.
Quote, and this is after the Steelers game,
Right.
Tuesday, we're speaking to the media.
Right.
The communication got to be better. Fundamentals got to be better. You can't blame anyone other than myself, but we need to communicate better all around.
There was way more to it. Might have been a second question. That's where he specifically talked about the fourth down. And I remember that soundbite.
I'll keep looking.
Because I heard the soundbite, and it was a
Yeah.
pretty long rip. It was like a 15-second clip.
Now, he did say it's all my fault.
He did, which
Yeah.
is big. But
Yeah.
but for the public, when I hear that, I don't think it's on the subordinate. I think it's on the boss. Bosses have to
Yeah.
communicate to the employers
and
what's expected
And
of
for
them.
Kevin Stefanski, I think we missed two big key things. He is a first-time head coach, right? So obviously there's some opportunity to learn. The 1 year he wasn't even in the building, right? So, and that happens to be his best year. Now, here's the thing that I look at it. Maybe you guys, you tell me if I'm wrong. It sounds like, it looks like, it's almost like you being a stepdad, right? Like you didn't literally have the kid. Like you look at, Deshaun Watson and Baker Mayfield, Kevin Stefanski inherited those guys.
Both of them.
So it's a little bit different.
It's not like he told the general manager to draft this player because I need him.
Right.
I agree with you. There is more of a connection, coach and player, when that's the case.
Because we're tired.
But that doesn't mean they're any less invested.
Right.
Or does it? I don't know.
No, well, it just shows you it's harder to get that communication because if I drafted you, we're bonded at the hip. You
Right.
know
If
what
I
it is.
inherited you,
it's like, okay. And
Well,
then
he didn't inherit Watson. They traded for Watson. That's a little
they
different.
traded for him. Now
Yeah.
we've never gotten the word who was the main guy who said, nah, go get me Watson?
At one point, when asked about it, Stefanski was asked specifically about had you decided that you couldn't win with Baker. Now, whether this was truthful or not, he said, we thought we could win moving forward, but we had an opportunity to better our team, so we did it.
And I don't know who the catalyst.
But to me, when a player gets drafted, you don't know if the coach wanted him either. Same as when a player gets traded for.
No, but in some cases,
Yeah.
the coach is in on that decision-making process, particularly if he's an offensive or specifically a quarterback guy.
I would assume.
Like if Kyle Shanahan drafts a quarterback, that's his guy.
Yeah, but I assume Kevin Stefanski, when they traded for Watson, they had his input on that.
I would hope they did.
Why wouldn't they?
Because they're the Browns.
I mean, because
that's.
But I would hope.
There's no way they traded for Watson without discussing it with Stefanski.
But we do have the information of knowing that Jimmy Haslam handpicked Johnny Manziel.
That's what we think. I don't know if we know that.
Then they text down the field like, "Oh, you gonna play him too? Get him in the game."
Yeah, but that's not the same as the Deshaun Watson situation.
But I think my general point was sometimes when you're put together, you have a very squeezed, condensed timeline to get it together.
They've had plenty of time. There's no excuses.
Well, here's the thing.
Yeah.
You could get the offense in, you could get the defense in, but there's a lot that you could have communication, but do you have trust? Trust is different.
I don't
know. Trust is known
after they beat Tennessee, we were all excited that they jumped into each other's arms basically, and we're like, look, they love each other, and now we're questioning their chemistry. I don't know.
But if Deshaun Watson is saying the same thing in his head, he's like, I was just chest bumping with you. Why you do that to me? Why would you tell people that I was cleared to play?
But that's why I don't think you could take it back to the Steeler game.
Yeah, because the Tennessee
I hope not. No, listen, I hope not. But what hit me yesterday was this wasn't the first communication problem that we knew about that was aired by one of the two in the public. It was Deshaun who first said, yeah, communication isn't good or whatever, isn't right. Here's the thing. There's 0% chance in my mind that Stefanski said, oh, you want to play?
Yeah, it doesn't.
0% chance of that. However, sometimes we, in dealings with people where there have been previous beefs, subconsciously say or do or treat that person with that piece of artillery in your backpack. You know that it's there.
Yeah, sure.
Because I thought he did that with Baker. When Baker came back and said, oh, I'll decide when I'm going to play or not. And he just disregarded the coach. I'm going to be playing.
Right.
I told you that.
Right.
And I think Stefanski was like, well, hold on. What you mean you playing?
Yeah, we make those decisions as an organization.
Well, here's what we're going to do. We're going to let you play. Go play.
For me, going forward, like all this stuff, it's been a mess. They can either come together as a team, as a unit, and start back on the winning track. You know, somebody said to me, I was talking with somebody yesterday about, do I still believe in Stefanski? Because I'm probably one of the few people left in town that does. But I said, I still have some faith in him. But he's holding on by a thread with me at this point.
Right.
And if he doesn't turn it around soon, the Browns are going to have to think about a change. But I don't think we're there yet because there's still very much, with all the doom and gloom that we've been sharing for the last 2 days, and it's going to continue unless Deshaun Watson plays because they're going to have hard time beating anybody without Deshaun Watson.
They are. That's a fact.
That's just the way it goes. You have a backup quarterback in most cases. It's hard to win. And so unless he turns it around soon, he's going to lose his job.
And I have, like you, I have not completely lost faith in Kevin Stefanski.
Yeah.
Here's what I can't figure out about Kevin Stefanski. How can he be so good against the Bengals? And how can he be so just mediocre, below average against everyone else? I don't know that.